This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey friends, welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. I am Aram Choe, and with me as always is not just my favorite dispatcher, but America's favorite dispatcher Kristen. What's up, Kristen?
Hi, how are you?
I need you to meet me with the same enthusiasm that I meet you.
Okay, all right.
America meets you.
Let me start over.
No.
Oh my gosh, Aram, hi, how are you doing? Not only am I speaking with Aram Choe, but the 911 Strong. How are things going?
Okay, never mind. We're not going to do that anymore. We'll just stick to whatever I'm used to and whatever you're used to. Just kidding. Well, thank you. That was more animated than normal.
I will be more animated for you people.
No. You know what people
you.
like about Kristen is that you're authentic, you're genuine, you're not fake.
I'm dry.
Oh, well, so am I. You know, people don't realize when we record these things first thing in the morning. And and they're usually on our first day off after our long work week. So yeah, the enthusiasm is going to be kind of hard.
And I don't drink caffeine. I drink.
You don't?
Decaf.
You completely stopped, huh?
Yeah, for the most part. Every now and then I might dabble, but for the most part, I don't drink caffeine anymore.
That's what I need to do. I feel like my body's so conditioned to caffeine. I need more and more of it. And now I'm just gotten to the point where it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Cut it out. It takes it a while.
Yeah. Speaking of cut it out, in today's episode of the 911 Strong podcast, episode 72, we're going to talk about the dwindling public perception and love for cops. I mean, it used to be when I first started in 2000, I started at the turn of the millennium. That sounds old. Mm-hmm. But back in 2000, and especially after 9/11, which was just a year later, we couldn't do anything wrong. People loved us. I mean, I remember I was in line at Disneyland with a friend of mine, and we all had short haircuts, and they asked us if we were in the military. I said, no, we were police officers. And I was like, thank you so much for what you do. Mm-hmm. Now, if we try to, at all costs, to avoid letting people know we're cops or affiliated in law enforcement because people hate us. The public perception has changed. And that's what we're going to talk about here on this episode. What do you think contributes to that, Kristen? Do you think we're shooting ourselves in the foot? Do you think it's media? Do you think it's a narrative that's being pushed? What?
Yeah, I think it's completely. I mean, obviously, there's always been bad stories to paint a bad perception, but as of recently, I think mostly it's social media, and it's social media and the media. I think the news media is really anti for the most part, and they only put the clips on that they want shown. They don't put the before, the after. They don't say the entire call or what was really going on. So they just push it a certain way. And then whatever you're fed round the clock, you start believing. And so there's a lot of people that are sitting in their cushy homes and not really knowing what's going on in their environment. And so they just believe what's ever on the news that, they must be telling the truth. So I think that has a huge thing to do with it, because if they were pushing more positive stories, you would see the pendulum start swinging the other way.
No, I agree. There's people that are in the news too that I thankfully have some integrity that have left. Our friend Christina Davies left her news. Mm-hmm. She was on I think she was a Fox affiliate up north in California. And then there's Ivory Hecker that everybody saw on social media while she was on live TV, said she was going to be exposing the news on Project Veritas. So yeah, I mean, but still people see that and they still believe the news because they do a good job of hiring these actors that know how to put off this sense of genuine regard, and they're trusting, and they cast these people, right?
Yeah.
They're
I think
not.
there's a big lack of people thinking for themselves too.
Yes.
Like if you just start asking some questions, I mean, you could tell a lot of things don't add up or make sense as well. So,
and then you get called a conspiracy theorist when you start doing your own research, right? Because like, you can't rely on what's on social media or what's on the news. So you go dabble on the internet and you go down this rabbit hole, and then how do you know what information that you find on the internet is accurate, right? You can't trust government sites anymore because they're pushing out their narrative.
And you can't just trust the left side or the right side because they're just, a lot of them are just doing clickbait just to get you riled up and ticked off. And then half the time you read the article and you start doing research, like, oh, this isn't even what it's about, or it's not even as bad as they make it seem, or, you know, so I think that really has a lot to do with it. So
I know you filter out a lot of calls over at the dispatch center. Do you get a lot of calls from people that are just hating on cops that just want to dime us off?
Yeah, it varies from day to day, but yeah, I get some people that'll just randomly have a wild hair up their rear end and just decide to call and cuss us out. And say, this is why we hate you and blah, blah, blah. And here's this and that. Like, okay, just hang up on them. Like, I don't give them any airtime anymore. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I don't put up with it. Or if they have a problem, I'll start talking to them. And if they start cussing me out, I'm like, all right, I'll put you on hold till you can calm down.
Yeah.
And I'll let them sit there for a while.
There are people that just legitimately don't like us, and when we've never given them any reason to. I posted a couple of reels on Instagram that were just factual reels talking about the history of our profession, and I had to delete a handful of comments. One of them was just a random ACAB. People think it's cool to go on cops pages and put ACAB, which is all cops are bastards. And I'm like, how do you generalize an entire profession? You know, I mean, you may have had a negative experience. Now and then if we did that to another group, we would be bigots, we'd be racists, we'd be prejudiced. I mean, the people expect us to have the same moral compass as they do, but they're exhibiting the same thing that they're accusing us of. So it's
I think those people are just the most moronic people anyways, because like, come on, if that person who wrote that, if somebody were to go over their house and break in and steal other things, who would they be calling?
Right.
The police.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Do you think we've given them a legitimate? I mean, there's enough. I'm not saying this is everybody, because I know the people listening to us like police, obviously. There's a lot of supporters out there. We saw that at our agency when we lost our 2 officers a couple months ago. The community came out. We had National Night Out yesterday. I was out there with your husband, and the amount of people that were on that street and came up to us. We had some officers get handwritten letters from kids. So we understand that there's people that like us. But for the people that don't like us, do you think we've really, really given them an excuse to actually hate us? Or is this just perpetuated, like you said, by the media?
I think there are some valid reasons for some people out there in certain areas, for sure, because there are bad cops out there and that exercise their authority and abuse it. So for sure, I think there are some very valid reasons for them to feel that way. But I also think that maybe some of those people need to think of why they even came in contact with police in the first place.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're not, I mean, at least around us, we're not being called to come hang out at birthday parties and have barbecues and that kind of thing. We're only being called out because there is an issue.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're only there because somebody asked us to be there. So either you were acting a fool and caused your neighbors to draw attention to you and call on you, or you're having an issue with your family member or friend or whatever, and we're being called out there. So it's already an upsetting incident. And then you're having us call. It's like you're calling. It's just like parenting, actually. I mean, when it comes down to it, you're having the kids fight, and then the parents come and they get angry at the parents because they're always choosing somebody else's side or whatever else. And then they hate them for a while.
Yeah.
So it's just like that, you know, it's like we're the parents to come and like calm down. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but a lot of the stuff they call us on are ridiculous calls to begin with. That they can figure out on their own.
Yeah.
But they want us to be the bad guy, and they use us as the bad people to pit against the other person.
No, I think it's a fair comparison. You're right. For most average people, we're always there when in a bad situation, right? Like you said, they call us when they're in a crisis. They call us, and you're right. They're not calling us over for barbecues or saying, "Hey, we're watching the game. Come on over." No, they're calling us because something's wrong. And then if we initiate the contact, it's usually a negative experience too, because we're initiating the contact to either deliver bad news or we're pulling them over and giving them a ticket, and it's ruined their day. So yeah, maybe we just need to figure out more ways to interact with people in a positive way, like that national night out. I wish we had that every week. Some of the best food I've ever had in my city was out yesterday. We had some awesome taco vendors.
Oh, I bet.
I was thirsty, so I went to an agua fresca stand. And if you don't know what an agua fresca is, it's Mexican waters. They're fresh waters, loosely translated, but they're sweet. They're flavored.
They're
so the
chock full of sugar.
Yeah, but the one I had, it was refreshing. It was Pepino's cucumber, and it's a cucumber infused, more like a punch, but it's a water. It was refreshing. And I got 4 of them because that's all I can carry. And I was walking them back to our Bearcat display and passed them around some officers, and for some of the officers drinking it, it was one of our acting captains that tried it for the first time, and he was like, "This is good," and he was like, "Is this supposed to be really good for you? Is this medicinal?" And I'm like, "No, it's going to give you diabetes." but we could have had those positive interactions with the public, but it seems like putting on these events is just, it's time consuming.
There's a lot behind it.
Yeah, it costs money. So what can we do to encourage more positive police interaction instead of the negative stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it's easier said than done. You could just always try to leave whatever call on a positive note. Like they tell you at supervisor school, one of those like sandwich things, you start with the good and you talk about the bad, and then you end with the good, and it's supposed to make your employee feel good about the talk. So, I mean, you could try doing that kind of stuff, but I think I don't know, especially maybe for now, just speaking for myself, I have a mixture of feelings. So it's very hard for me to be sympathetic with some of these people.
Yeah. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline
when they call, and especially with some of the, with what we just went through, because some people just don't care and they just lie all the time on the phone.
All right.
And I don't have any remorse or sympathy for them, if I'm being completely honest.
I know, but that's what we're expected to do, right? And then
it's the expectation, but it's just,
it comes off disingenuous.
I just can't. I just don't have time for the nonsense. If you want to help, I'll be more than happy to help you. Yeah. But if you're going to lie, then handle it on your own.
Yeah. And for the people that are listening that are wondering how callers lie, I remember Kristen venting about someone wanting police over for an argument, and said something like, "He's got a gun." So officers get there and there's no gun. And, then they call back saying, "He's back." We leave the call and he's back again. And then you call him out. "Is there a gun?" "No." "Well, why'd you tell us there was a gun?" "Because if I didn't say there was a gun, you guys weren't going to get here fast enough." Blatantly just lying.
So there's that. And can I talk about the one that just happened?
Which one?
I can't. Well, I guess I can. So this has just been my second week back. I've just completed my second week back. After everything that happened with our department. And so this lady calls and she's in a panic and keeps hanging up on us just about her adult men sons arguing with each other and fist fighting, but doesn't give us any information. So we start sending them out there. It wasn't like an emergent type call. So as we're sending them out there, I get another call from another female who's saying that her boyfriend is suicidal and sent her a picture with the gun. And it was a current picture. So I'm like, okay, so as I'm taking that call and my guys are headed to this specific address, she gives me that address as it being the same with the suicidal subject. So as our guys are getting there, I let my dispatcher know, "Hey, he has a gun, just to let you know he has a gun." Right. And so because the trauma I've been through, I start replaying what I went through before. So simultaneously as that's happening, now I get another phone call, and it's the mom of the two guys. And now she's on the phone with us, and she actually stays on the phone. So I start getting description of the guys, and the one that was suicidal, I start asking more in-depth questions about him. As I'm asking more in-depth questions about him, I then ask her, where's the gun? And she said, there's a pause, and she's like, there is no gun. I'm like, well, I just talked to so-and-so who has a picture of him with it currently, and said that you were aware that he has it. So where is it? There's no gun. There's no gun here. Yes, there is one. Stop lying to me. I need to know for the safety of my guys. No, there's no gun here. I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm getting fired up and trying to bite my tongue because, again, I'm going back to all my trauma, and I don't want to lose my job. So
yeah, you're trying to get to the bottom of it because officers are on their way now. So if there is a gun, you want to know about it.
Right. So she continues to lie about it. The guys get there. We let them know what's going on, that the mom is full of it and she's lying. And the girlfriend has this hard copy picture of him with it. So long story short, the mom decided to guide our officers to where the gun was at. And it was a stolen, like, ghost gun too.
Oh.
So, it's stuff like that I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Did they arrest the mom?
No. No, which is also what ticks me off because, and I get it because it's our county. Our county's not going to do anything. Our DA doesn't care.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you lie about something like that and it's on a recorded line and you're, impeding or interfering with an investigation, I think you should be, especially for something like that, you should be freaking thrown in jail.
Yeah.
But
that infuriates me because they're doing it for selfish reasons, not knowing that.
Yeah.
It could have gotten people killed.
Yeah. She could have gotten her own sons killed.
Yeah.
But she doesn't care. So it's hard for me to empathize with some of these people right now. And I'm trying to work through it, but it's really hard.
It's complete selfishness. And
yes.
I think
and it's stuff like that isn't put on the news that people don't know about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, you can paint us however you want. Yeah. Until then the news cares.
Yeah.
But prior to that, they don't care about all the nonsense that we're being told, all the lies that we're being told. Now, granted, there's some very valid victims out there, but I would say that a lot of our calls aren't needed, aren't emergencies, and a lot of them are lying to us.
So, you're an officer, you're a dispatcher, you go through this multiple times in a 20 plus year career, and now you're skeptical, right? So when you go out and you ask questions and then the public is like all of a sudden offended. Why are you asking? Well, we have valid reasons. Now, if you're listening, now you know why we ask questions that you think are accusatory or stupid, because at the end of the day, we want to establish a safe environment before we ask specific questions about why you called us. So the gun's more important. Where's the gun? Well, no, you're here to talk about my son's fighting. Yeah. But before we do that, we're talking about the gun. Where's the gun? And people just don't get that. People.
Yeah.
It's completely selfish. It's narrow-minded, and if you just answer the questions that we ask, things might go a lot smoother.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, originally we were talking about public perception and what do you think we've done to maybe support the public negative perception on us. But the more we talk about it, it sounds like the public is just as guilty.
Yeah, it goes both ways. Yes. It definitely goes both ways, but obviously the magnifying glass is on police officers. It's not on the people that called. Yeah. And like, I know I've said it before, but like with everything that the news shows, oh, the police did this, oh, the police did that, oh, this poor guy, he got picked on by the cops. They hardly ever talk to, well, why were they out there in the first place?
Yeah.
They hardly ever play the caller's call who tells us, oh, he had a gun and they lied about it, or he was acting erratic. He always does this. He's a constant issue here. Yeah. They never play those parts of the tape because that would taint whatever story that they're trying to sell.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. So. Thank God for body cams now. I was one of those guys that really was skeptical about them, but now because I've seen it vindicate so many people, I'm very glad they exist. And I wish they existed back when I was a new officer. I went to a call in the north end of our city. Neighbors were calling because this drunk guy was sitting on the porch. He lived there, but he was sitting on the porch, drunk, throwing bottles. So they call us. So we figure, me and my partner pull up. We figure we're just going to, hey, calm down, take it inside. You can be drunk inside your house. You just can't be drunk outside and affect the public. We get out there, and he decides he's going to meet us in the driveway and tell us to get off his property. And we're like, hey, we're just here to check on your welfare. There's broken glass bottles everywhere. He's probably 60 years old. I remember him being gray and just kind of disheveled. I could smell him from the apron of the driveway. And we're like, hey, we'll leave as soon as you get inside the house. And he has a bottle in his hand. And he starts saying racial slurs towards me. I don't know why he's angry at me, because my partner's doing all the talking. He just doesn't like that I'm there. And then he decides he's going to throw the bottle, which completely misses me, like not even close. And then we're like, okay, this guy's a problem now. So we go to try to get him to calm down. We're probably within 10 feet away from him when he decides he's going to swing at me and completely miss, because he's swinging at me full force, right? He's already
from
drunk.
10 feet away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even feel the wind of his punch, because that's how bad he spins around and he falls, and the driveway is kind of sloped, and he cracks the back of his head down to the ground. We go down to render aid, and he doesn't want, I'm like, you're bleeding, calm down. And guess who pulls up in the driveway? His son and his daughter-in-law, who's a nurse. She's wearing scrubs. They pull up, and what does it look like? It looks like we just beat the crap out of their 60-year-old dad.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not what happened. And son comes out. He's like, leave him alone. He's got a condition, blah, blah, blah. And the nurse is like, oh, he's got a heart condition. I'm a nurse. I'm like, I'm waving over here. Come help. I think that's when their focus kind of changed. I'm like, why would we be asking them for help? And if we were trying to beat this guy up? Yeah. So I said, we need gauze, we need a towel, something to stop the bleeding. Well, it turns out that it was just a small cut. And because he had so much alcohol in the system, and because head wounds bleed a lot, and the alcohol thins the blood too. It just, it was a bloody mess. And there's blood all over us. There's blood all over this guy. And it looked really, really bad. Ambulance comes. By now, all the neighbors are out, and they're like, what did you do to him? Luckily, the neighbor who called was
watching from their window.
Time, yes. And we were able to record her. And back then we had little micro cassette recorders. We were able to record her statement, and she said exactly what happened. So that vindicated us. And when we explained to the son and daughter-in-law that that's what happened, they're like, yeah, we can see that happening too. So thankfully that vindicated us. We didn't end up on nightly news as beating up a 60-year-old guy, but but the reality is that's what happens today, right? That's what you end up seeing on the news. And the officers don't even get to tell the backstory because they're in an active IA investigation, and they're ordered not to talk about it. And it's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's say what really happened, give our version of the story, and make it a non-issue. So thankfully now, because of public records requests and the fact that our body cams are public record, the news can request it. And a lot of times they see the footage. It's like, it's not even worth putting a story up. Yeah. So thank goodness.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think those cameras have more pros than cons for sure.
Yeah. So anywho, before we close it, we have any final thoughts about this? I know the point of all this is to educate cops on some of the optics that we do that might give us more of a negative public perception. But I think as we were talking, we evolved it more towards we can cooperate. What? I
said, sorry, I kind of twisted it a little bit.
No, it's good. We're just having the conversation. But it's the same type of conversation that we would have with the public. It takes turns. Yesterday at the National Night Out, I met a mom that was really concerned about traffic. And I met her before at a coffee with a cop, and she cornered about 3 of us officers and said, address some traffic concerns. We addressed it. We addressed it in a video that we put on our agency's Facebook that your husband was involved into. And we initiated the program and made an announcement. She stopped us and said she was very happy about that. We're like, oh, thank you. And then it turned into I have another complaint. So,
of course.
But be more cooperative, cut us some slack, and understand that there's 2 sides to the story.
Always 2 sides to the story.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the 911 Strong podcast. And on behalf of my partner, dispatcher Kristen, and myself, we thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the 911 Strong podcast. See ya.
Bye. Take care.
Save it for the next one, Kristen.
Okay. Bye, guys.